What's up, Internet? This is Clinton Manning, and you're watching Tales by Firelight. So in the 1800s, there was a young couple that lived in a small town in the southern part of Brazil. And this couple, they would work really hard to support themselves. The husband would work at night, and his wife would work in the day. And the only time they had together was right in the evening before he left for his job. And what she did for a living was she would do all the laundry for the wealthy people in the area. She would do it all by hand, and she would deliver it to their homes in the evening. One particular evening, this woman, she had finished the laundry for the day, so she was out doing rounds delivering to all the wealthy people whom she worked for. And so what she would do is she would do all the laundry, put it in a wheelbarrow, and then she would walk it. She'd go through the different trails. She had this whole little route she would take to take it to all the homes. One evening, she went out. She was doing her deliveries, and the sun was already starting to set, and she had almost finished her deliveries. There was just one more left. She started to hear the sound of like an animal walking in the forest next to her. So this trail, this old dirt road, had forest on both sides, and the vegetation was very thick and very lush. And it's the kind of forest that you look into and you can only see into it maybe 10 feet before it became dark and covered with foliage, so many trees, so much brush. So she could hear something rustling in the forest, and she began to notice that it was walking alongside her. And at first she didn't really notice it too much. She was thinking about her day and getting excited to see her husband in the evening, right before he goes to his work. But the noise, the sound of like an animal stalking her, began to make her feel uneasy. So she started walking a little faster. And she noticed the animal also walked a little faster. So she kind of started doing a light jog. And it was hard because she's pushing a wheelbarrow, right? So she would listen, and she would notice that as she slowed down, it slowed down. And it was just keeping up with her. Pretty soon she could see the gate for that last delivery. And at that point, she heard a growl. And it was a deep growl. It was unnerving. It was unsettling. And just then, out of the brush came an enormous dog, or a wolf. Didn't exactly look like a dog or a wolf. It was big, and it was very thick, dark hair. The hair looked like it was dirty. And it came right towards her. So she dropped the wheelbarrow and started to run. And she was just running as fast as she could. And she got to the gate. And the gate was really tall. So she looked back, and the wolf was stopped looking at her. And so she turned around, put her back into the gate, and just stared at the wolf. And the wolf got into this pouncing position and went to attack. And so she started climbing the gate. And the gate was 15 feet tall. It was really tall. So she climbed as fast as she could and got to the very top. And it had strong iron bars, all bent, in this decorative pattern. And she got to the point where she was at the very top, and she was just hanging on to the top. And the wolf was pacing back and forth, and it was growling, and it started to jump at her. So she, became a pretzel. She was at the very top with her feet as well. And her dress was the only thing hanging. And the wolf would jump, grab a hold of her dress, and yank at it. And jump and grab a hold of her dress and yank at it, trying to pull her down. And she was just sobbing and crying, and it was painful sitting on top of this gate. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, the wolf stopped, and it ran. And she was up there, and she was just screaming, and nobody was home. So she waited for a little while till she felt like it was safe, and she climbed down and started walking home. And by this time, it was already dark, and she was terrified. She was looking left and right, and her visibility was really low. And pretty soon, she just felt like she needed to run. So she ran, and she ran all the way home. And she was really sad because when she got home, she realized she had missed her husband. He left already, and he must have been worried about her. And all these thoughts were racing through her mind. So she got into the home, she lit every candle in the house, and she put herself to bed. She woke up the next morning because her husband had climbed into bed. And she laid there, and she didn't want to wake him because she knew he was so tired. So she just kind of sat up and looked at his face. and he was already closing his eyes and resting peacefully. So she reached over and moved the hair out of his face. And as she was looking at him, he gave a deep, deep breath and opened his mouth. And in his teeth, she could see all the cloth that matched the same color of the dress she was wearing the night before. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching Tales by Firelight. I was a storyteller when I was a kid. Now as a grown-up, I work in Hollywood helping them make movies and tell their stories. So I've decided to bring my stories to you here on YouTube. So please subscribe so you don't miss the next tale.